Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're taking a look at Gaming News Consolidated. This is October 20 through the 24th, or 26th, excuse me, and we got quite a bit. We got to talk about Black Myth coming to Xbox, got to talk about FIFA actually coming back as a game. I wasn't expecting that. They're probably losing enough money at this point. Let's talk too about the struggle of Double and AAA actually competing with Indie. For the first time, they're tied. We'll talk about that some. We'll talk about God of War getting a TV show and what's going on with that. A live action one. We'll talk about Spiderman 2, Star Citizen. We'll talk about Xbox Game Studios having a new boss. We're getting a new Destiny game. Black Ops 6, we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about some leaks and that Killzone is probably never coming back and some more. So if you enjoy the channel, go ahead and like, sub, all that jazz. But hey, let's go ahead and get into this. My goal is basically just to take a few hours every week to look over the news and consolidate it all for you here in roughly about a 35, 60-minute package. That's generally my goal, but you know, it's kind of more of a podcast. If you want something to watch, there's something on the screen for you. But, you know, hey, it is what it is, and I enjoy actually doing this. So I do this once a week. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. But hey, let's go ahead and get into this. So Black Myth Wukong coming to Xbox. We found out with the ESRB that they actually have a rating for Black Myth Wukong for the Xbox console. And so hopefully we'll get this sooner rather than later. There's probably still some things that actually need to show up. First, it was actually the Science Institute. I think their developers were saying that there was an issue with the Series S console. Xbox came back and said, no, it's not actually an issue with the console, which that's kind of debatable. Maybe some of us believe that, maybe some of us don't. But there was the issue, too, of just like, boy, there's a lot of tearing on the screen there. That's brutal. Of just, man, yeah, that's worse quality than I thought. Holy smokes. It'll look better on YouTube when it gets there. This is off of Twitch, and Twitch isn't great. I'll be honest. But anyway, sorry about that. But yeah, there was some kind of feedback too, or some rumors. A couple of different companies, I think it was IGN and another one, were saying that Black Myth Wukong was actually a timed exclusive. This was pretty hard to confirm, but that's the general consensus, is that it was actually that it was actually a timed exclusive, and that we'll be getting Black Myth Wukong later. We'll probably get it in, my guess is a 12-month period. That's generally what PlayStation does with their exclusivity deals, is making sure that they have at least 12 months to bring people to the channel or to the console. That's what they're doing with Silent Hill 2. So like Silent Hill 2 came out this month in October. We'll get it next year, October 2025. And yeah, you know, we got to wait a while, but I'm ready for the exclusivity to go away because we don't really have a console war anymore. I mentioned that in my last State of Gaming video on Xbox, trying to really work on going global, and they're just getting out of that type of game. But yeah, Black Myth Wukong does look like it will be coming to Xbox. Also, if you're interested on PlayStation with physical copies, those will be coming soon, according to a tweet or a post from the studio itself. So Black Myth Wukong right now is over 20 million copies sold digitally, which is crazy. This is over $1 billion for them, most likely. And then, yeah, the sales will continue to grow if they're actually able to bring it to Xbox, and if they're actually willing to bring it to physical. I would actually love to have a physical game of Black Myth Wukong and play it for myself. Again, it's just so single player. I'm not as interested in single player stuff. I like a lot of the multiplayer, but I do actually want to play this for myself and just enjoy it. We found out too that the game budget for Black Myth Wukong was $40 million. So that's like, there is such a benefit with being a self-publishing studio, because it's a whole lot easier to actually make money and just cut out the middlemen. If you can actually publish the game yourself and get that going, it's wonderful. When even if your game doesn't do that great, you can still make a fair amount of money. But yeah, when you really hit it out of the park, I mean, they're almost at $1 billion revenue, and their budget was $40 million. There's some marketing in there too and stuff, but still, like they made basically 1,000% return on their money, which is crazy. And hopefully, they will continue to be independent. I think studios that are independent actually have a better time of putting passion into their games and other projects, and them actually being good, actually them being built for the consumers instead of just trying to get more money. Let's talk about FIFA. So it's actually going to be coming back as a game. So remember when FIFA wanted $1 billion basically for their licensing with EA, and EA was like, no, we're just going to make our own called Football Club. That's what we have now. And basically it is the same game pretty much, just doesn't have the FIFA name on it. So FIFA must be losing out on some money, or at least money potential, because now FIFA and Konami have a deal to bring FIFA back as an esport. So it still sounds like it'll actually be a game. The details are all fuzzy on this deal. We don't know how much Konami is paying for licensing. And while Konami's pretty good for some of their IPs, I wouldn't think of them as like a multiplayer type of game or like a sports type of company. They do good at telling, war stories and that kind of thing. But yeah, this is kind of a different avenue for them. Do I think it's going to be as good? Konami's version going to be as good to compete with FC? Probably not, because FC has now basically taken the reins over as for football/soccer, and they are making money. Their revenues were insane. Just for their first football club game is pretty wild. So yeah, we'll see. But I think ultimately competition is good. I mentioned that before on the channel. Is that we need competition to actually make sure that companies build the games for the players. And I honestly too, even though Black Ops 6 is on the screen, I had a blast with my bros last night, but it streamed for 6 hours. God, I haven't played that long in a long time, and I'm quite tired today. But like, while it was fun, it's still a Call of Duty game. But I would like there to be more competition for actual Call of Duty, because right now Call of Duty, if you want a first-person shooter, that's basically it. I mean, there is Fortnite, but that's a different type of style. And there's also like Apex, but that's kind of a different type of style too. And there's Deadlock from Valve. We haven't really seen that yet, but that looks like that's just going to be PC. And then, but yeah, there's not a lot of stuff out there. It's kind of a bummer. Let's talk about AAA actually having trouble competing with indie in a way. So looking at just revenue, it's crazy. Indie games are almost making as much money as AAA and AA games are, according to Steam. Indie is making 48% of the total revenue on Steam, which is extremely high. It's never been this high before, and AAAs, AAs are making 52% so far in 2024. But like, AAA has especially failed hard this year. And I feel like there's channels now that are working on trying to give a good view of what games actually are, so that people don't have to spend their money and get burned, which we've already had plenty of that earlier this year, and even I'd say late 2010s. But like the games that have failed this year, just this year: Suicide Squad, Skull and Bones, Star Wars Outlaws, Assassin's Creed Shadows was delayed for next year, which doesn't look good. Concord, there's also a lot of canceled games. Until Dawn Remake didn't go well. Destiny 2 Final Shape was even delayed and was pretty good, but again, didn't sell. It actually sold less than the expansion that people really hated, which was Lightfall. So yeah, it is just not going good. And then we've also had Shattered Space DLC for Starfield, and that's not going over either. And there are other smaller games that also haven't been doing well either. Like, I think of Flintlock, which, man, I was really hoping for that game. Their first game, Ashen, was wonderful. But yeah, Flintlock, just kind of boring and generic, and again, just not much of a story. Also some continuity issues. Yeah, it was frustrating, but like there's actually been a lot of those. And I think this shows that how bad the industry really is. Because when indie games can basically almost match the revenue gross on Steam compared to AAA and AA, that's crazy. And like the industry too is frustrating. We have microtransactions, things are buggy, servers don't work, there's unappealing characters, there's boring story. And honestly, this hurts. I mean, AAA used to be peak games, used to be really wonderful, big budget games, and I feel like now they're just pushing money in to just try to get more of a return without actually understanding how to make a fun and engaging game. Now, I think Call of Duty is so successful, like on the screen, simply because, well, people really don't have another choice. That's just what it is. And it's also been microtransactions to death. We will talk about the game, Dexter and I, in a full review after a while. But yeah, it is. But so far, it is a better Call of Duty game. But yeah, I think too, a lot of people have just checked out. And with an aging demographic, people just aren't as interested in first-person shooters because they can't compete with the younger kids. Pretty much myself included. If I'm by myself grinding, dude, it's a rough go. It sucks. It's really quite brutal. But yeah, hopefully someday, which is really why the reason I complain about it is like I want AAA to get better. I honestly do. I want AAA to have passion again. Smaller teams to work on the game, and like the AA's have been doing wonderful. They've been doing pretty well. Some of them haven't been perfect, of course, but some of the others have been great. Like Black Myth Wukong is a good example. Helldivers 2 is another good example. Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree DLC for that game have been another good example. Space Marine 2 is another good example. These aren't technically AAA games. They're AA or like really high-end AA games, and they've been doing great. And again, it's like the corporates are out of the freaking way and just letting us actually build these games and play them. And it's wonderful. Let's talk about God of War. So we're going to be getting a TV show, a live action on Amazon. Though they're starting over. Like, and I mean over. Maybe they'll still use some of the same sets. But like the live action show is going to be rebuilt from the ground up. It's going to be a retell of the 2018 game where Kratos is basically a dad with Atreus. And the showrunner, executive producer, is gone. They're no longer a part of that team. And so they're looking for a new exec producer and showrunner. And then they're also going to get a new team of writers. Some of the writers are going to stay, but the majority are actually going to leave. And so, yeah, this is a total overhaul of production team actually making this. And I'm really curious kind of what happened. I don't know if it was differences, but I think there's a potential for this to actually better than maybe we think it is, or be better than a lot of adaptations have been lately. And yeah, I hope this is good news, because I would actually like this to be a pretty good adaptation. And again, if it's enjoyable, if it's engaging, if they stick to the lore well, then it's wonderful, right? They're going to make money. But it also sounds like we're going to be getting the original God of War Remaster Collection coming. Probably just to PlayStation, maybe eventually to PC, but PlayStation has also been putting things to PC pretty quick, a lot faster. Like we're already getting Spider-Man 2, which I will be bringing that up. I went ahead... excuse me. Went ahead a little bit, but hey, that's okay. Actually, that's my next thing, I think. It is. So yeah, Spider-Man 2 is actually going to be coming to PC, which is kind of crazy. It's been about a year, and we're going to be getting it on January 2025 on Steam. Currently, the sales from May of 2024, this was the latest I could see. They've sold 11 million copies. This is actually from Statista, which is a great statistics website to get your information. They track all sorts of stuff. But yeah, according to the Insomniac hack, they needed almost 8 million copies at full price to actually break even. Their budget for the game, just the budget, not anything else, was about $315 million. And then this still didn't include licensing and marketing and all of that other stuff. So yeah, hopefully 11 million is currently enough to actually be profitable. But ultimately, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not enough of a profit margin. Because after we had Spider-Man 2 and the struggle to actually sell enough games, Miles Morales' Spider-Man sold really well. It actually sold more copies, but it was also at a cheaper price point. And inflation's been rough for everybody, so people are going to try to find the better value than they have in the past. And the thing that's interesting is with Spider-Man 2 is that they weren't expecting to break even until like mid to later this year, which is kind of wild. Same with Alan Wake 2. It looks like they're finally going to become profitable at the beginning of 2025. And like these bigger budgets, they're just showing that it's harder to actually make a good amount of money on them or to even really break even. It takes forever. And so Sony has already put out earlier this year that they're going to have smaller budgeted games. I'm guessing about 100 or 200 million to actually try to work those down. So we can maybe see exactly how they'll do that. Maybe they'll continue to use older assets so they don't have to build them from the ground up. Maybe they'll stick to Unreal Engine 5 for a longer period of time, shorter stories. I don't know. Maybe even try to go with microtransactions more. But yeah, that is just kind of crazy. So yeah, I wonder though if they're putting it on PC pretty quickly again just to get money through the door, because yeah, Spider-Man 2 was an extremely expensive game, very much. Also, we're not going to be getting any DLC. No more story DLC or anything really coming for Spider-Man 2. Development is finished. All of the stuff we had heard about in the Insomniac leak, that's all been canceled at this point. And I don't necessarily think it's because of the leak itself, because again, a lot of that stuff was already built. And I think it's just that, they really need to focus on working towards something else, because they have been struggling to actually have good projects. And their live service push has been awful, and it's been incredibly frustrating. Concord is their biggest disaster so far, the failure of Destiny 2, and then Marathon is coming, and so is Fair Games. And again, these are just not enjoyable games. These are just kind of feel like they're more corporatized, and what is supposed to make them fun just is not there. They really seem out of touch. So we'll actually see. But yeah, some of the canceled stuff was like we were going to get a Carnage boss fight, but again, are we going to spend $10, $20 for like an hour or a couple hours of gameplay? Is that really worth it? It's kind of hard because that is pretty expensive. We're also going to get some skins too. And I guess supposedly there were also some other like story side quests and some other DLCs that they were working on that maybe weren't quite finished yet. But yeah, it's just crazy like how expensive games are getting. And while they're expensive for us, $70 and whatever, we're looking for that value proposition. And these companies, they're feeling the pinch too with inflation. And that's why we're having these layoffs and canceled games and everything else. So I still think it's going to be rough for a while, for a few years. But I think we're going to see more story games than actual live service games. And like even Battlefield 2042, they didn't have a campaign. The next one will. So we'll see what it's like. Their main focus is still going to be live service and building the next Battlefield game. But again, they're trying to bring more things to bring more value to the actual game so that people will spend that money. And we'll see if they do. Let's talk about Star Citizen. Squadron 42 is coming, we found out, in 2026, which is crazy. They've already spent 2 years of polish on this DLC or expansion, and now they're saying they need another 2 years, which is pretty insane. And this is funny because while showing 42, their own computer crashed twice trying to show off the expansion. So, it's nowhere near ready for development. But 4 years of polish for an expansion, man, that is just something else. That just really feels off. You know what I mean? 4 years to make an expansion. What the heck are they doing over there? What is going on? And something's really off. And so this kind of got me looking into more of the financials of the company. They've already raised $701 million. They've also had another $63 million for marketing. And an insider has said that they've made or gotten almost $800 million at this point, which is wild. It's utterly insane. That is so much money. And this game is still in beta. Okay, it's not officially released, and we don't know when we're going to get an official release. And if we haven't gotten one by now, I don't think we'll get one, honestly. Maybe they'll do it with Squadron 42, but if they don't do it by Squadron 42, I honestly can't imagine them ever actually releasing the game. Some players, just to give those that don't know about Star Citizen, spend tens of thousands of dollars, even 100,000 plus, to actually play this game and buy content and ships and all of this other stuff. And it's crazy because we think Star Citizen started in 2012 with a potential release date of 2014. That's 2 years, and somebody decided, well, we can just keep expanding, keep adding, keep getting stuff, and some of these richer players, they'll buy it. And so they have an extremely rich player base, and I think that's who they've catered it to for sure. And they are making money. Over $700 million in roughly a decade. That's really good. But, this honestly could be worse than Concord. And because their financial report for 2022 says they've already spent, this is crazy, $637 million. A couple of years ago. I've been looking for the report of 2023. I don't think it's there. I can't find it. And there's also supposed to be a financial report for 2024, which we're supposed to be getting next year in 25. But they've already spent $637 million. Average spending right now since 2020 has been $106 million per year. And so if we go at that rate, they are already in debt. They have already spent everything. And that's mind-boggling. Like, if they've already spent over $800 million, where did the money go? We also got a report in August of 2024. Haven't gotten September's, and we're probably not going to get October's anytime soon. But the August report for this year says that the game is 63% complete. Are you serious? 800 million and your game is just over half finished? Like, literally, what the hell are they doing over there? Like, that has got to be the biggest crapshoot. I mean, you want to talk about a failure? Oh my word. I mean, the game runs, right? There's still bugs and stuff. They're still making DLCs. They're still supporting the game. But honestly, for how long? Because they're making less and spending more. And if they're already in debt, like, they eventually just got to get rid of this thing and move on to something else. And this is crazy. The company, too, has also laid off 150 staff this year at the administrative offices. Again, they're just trying to save money. That's why you have layoffs. They're already calling for more funding, and they're saying that there are more bundles coming, like for ships and other things you can buy. And they already released a bundle earlier this year that was $48,000. And you already had to spend tens of thousands to gain access just to be able to buy this $48,000 bundle of ships and stuff. It's insane. And boy, if this fails, what happens to everything? All of the ships, all of the experience, all of the, like, it just shuts off, right? Because it doesn't actually physically exist. It all just disappears with the servers. So, man, if you are a Star Citizen player, I would seriously consider stopping because this really doesn't look good. As a third-person guy looking in at the company, well, the company is not profitable. They're laying off. They're having 4 years to make this expansion. Things are not going well. They're having a burn rate of over $100 million a year, which, again, where is that money going? And then there's still no potential release date anytime soon, not even in this decade, which, again, is just completely wild. And again, if they fail, if they go bankrupt and nobody wants to buy them, everything goes bye-bye. And then what? They're going to have some really pissed off customers, but they're not going to care anymore if they fail that bad. But it's just a lesson for the industry, for all of us. Like, make sure what you're buying, think of it as an investment. For fun or entertainment or connecting with people, but not everything should be invested in because, Star Citizen is wild. It's wild. Yeah. I mean, Star Citizen came out before I started my current job that I've been at for 11 years. Like, I can't even, oh my word. Yeah, I can't even imagine that. Let's see. Let's move on to gaming. Xbox Game Studios. They have a new boss. It's actually the head of Rare, which made Sea of Thieves. They are now going to be the Xbox Game Studios head. They will directly chat with... I didn't write his name down, I don't think. Oh, bummer. But yeah, Alan Hartman is retiring, and Craig Duncan from Rare is moving in. So, yeah, Rare will be co-managed by Joe, if I mispronounce these, I apologize. Joe Neate and Jim Horth. These are veteran employees that have been with the Rare studio for quite some time, and they're going to dual manage the studio. So I'm guessing one's going to continue to stay focused on Sea of Thieves, and then Rare is probably working on another project. Or maybe two, they're just getting bigger. And we're actually starting to see this more often, too, is like dual managers. So we're seeing that at Sony. We're seeing that with Rare. We're seeing that with some other studios and publishers too, just to ensure we're even adding like chiefs of staff with other Xbox studios just to ensure that things run and go well while making these games and so continuing to support them. So, taking a look at Craig Duncan, he'll be looking over the games in development for Double Fine, Halo Studios, Rare, Ninja Theory, Coalition, Obsidian, Undead, Turn 10, Mojang, Compulsion, Playground, World's Edge, and Exile Entertainment. Duncan also has a lot of live service experience, so I hope future games aren't all just going to be like have live service aspects or be full-blown live service. I would actually love for them to be something else. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We have a lot of things shifting around the last couple of years, new people, and I kind of wonder too if Phil Spencer is also going to be replaced at some point. He's been there for a long time. A lot of people aren't happy about him or with him, and so we'll actually see what Xbox does. There's been some calls to replace him, but I'm honestly scared to get somebody else because Sony had Ryan. Holy smokes, look how that worked out. Following the trend for every mother frickin' game. And, oh my word, that has cost Sony billions of dollars. And they can't have billions of dollars of loss. That's too much. But, you know, whether we really like Phil Spencer or not at Xbox or like the management at Valve or Steam or whatever, or maybe Take-Two Interactive is another one. But, like, it can always be worse, honestly. And I'm hoping what the boards and the heads of these big gaming conglomerates take consideration of is making sure that who they're choosing are actual gamers too. And that's what I appreciate about Phil Spencer. While I don't agree with everything he does, I don't want somebody like Ryan that's just a suit to manage the company, just make money, because that has been a disaster for Sony. Looks like we'll also be getting a new Destiny game called Destiny Rise. This is going to be a mobile game by NetEase. It's definitely not the one we're hoping for. And it could sell well. People could be curious, but again, it's another mobile game. In some mobile games, they make billions. So I don't know. We'll have to see how this does, and other games just totally crash. So yeah, we'll see how this does. If Destiny 2 is any indication, and NetEase in their previous games, microtransactions will be insane in Destiny Rising. And I'm not going to try it. It's just going to be a waste of my time, and I'd rather bring you guys better content than that. So let's talk about Black Ops 6 a little bit. It came out yesterday, or last night, or no, I guess it comes out today, doesn't it? Dexter and I and Mahone actually took some time to stream, and we played the game in multiplayer for 6 hours. Basically got to try all of the maps, try quite a few of the guns. As you can see, I like the light machine gun. We will do some initial looks. We will have some reviews later, and if I will also go through the campaign and also go through the zombies. Mahone was interested in zombies, and then Dexter was interested in campaign if it's actually co-op. So we'll be bringing that to you guys soon. I'll put it that way. And yeah, we'll get it out to you as quickly as we can. But yeah, so far, the multiplayer has been pretty good. I mean, let's consider it is a Call of Duty game. So that should preface a lot of about what I'm going to say. It's not like amazing. It's not like COD is the best. COD is just what we have, unfortunately. COD is the best that we have, and that's shown by the player numbers and stuff. We've seen some jumps in the PlayStation Time Tracker. Call of Duty HQ jumped up a spot or two, but they're generally always in like the top 5, top 6. And so, yeah, there are quite a few people on PlayStation jumped on to play Call of Duty. We're also seeing on Steam there was also a really big tick up for people to play Black Ops 6. So we know people either have Game Pass or they bought the game. And yeah, there's a lot of people playing on Steam, though not as many as when Modern Warfare 3 released last year. And so it's about half the numbers so far on Steam. Black Ops 3 released with about 450,000 concurrents on Steam, and this one has released with about 225,000. So it's about half, which is crazy. And again, it's like you can't just keep making the same thing and putting a different skin on it. You gotta actually innovate. And I'm hoping that Activision Blizzard actually does this, but they won't do it until they actually really start losing money. So, again, if you don't like it, don't play it. Okay? It's totally okay. Because the more people that don't actually play Call of Duty, the more they're going to have to innovate at some point. And we're starting to see that with Ubisoft. We're starting to see that with Take-Two Interactive, with Gearbox. We're starting to see that with Embracer. Okay, we're starting to see that with PlayStation and the other studios and stuff. Like they're starting to see the lack of money, and they know that some changes actually need to be made. This may not still be the ones that we want, but something is better than nothing. At least we want to see them going in the right direction. So yeah, overall, it's definitely a better Call of Duty game. I'd say it's better than the last three that we've actually had: Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, and Vanguard. It's better than those three. The last game that I had this much fun on was Cold War. Played Cold War a lot, had a blast. But again, if I didn't have friends to play with, I probably wouldn't be playing this. So it's not good enough for me to just solo it, right? I actually want to play with folks, and that's most games. So, but yeah, reviews and all that will be coming soon. Mario Luigi Brothership, unfortunately, has been completely leaked online. Nintendo has had so many leaks lately, and it's just crazy. We even got to see the final boss fight on a thumbnail of a video. So yeah, this is just horrible, And some people maybe think that Nintendo deserves it, but again, we should protest legally in the gaming space or anything else in life, because if we're willing to be dicks, honestly, how is it going to improve and how is it going to be better? And honestly, it's just met with an equal and opposite response too. Nintendo has really bunkered down on making sure any content of theirs is just taken off the interwebs. And it's because they've had the Game Freak leak. It's because they had Jamboree leak. It's because they had now Brothership leaked. They had leaks for Echoes of Wisdom. Like, they've pretty much every game this year that's been big has had leaks. And that's not boding very well for them. They also had Pal World Innovate, and they're dealing with that too. So they're trying to sue Pocket Pair to basically get Pal World off, but I don't think that's actually going to happen because, again, this is not intellectual property infringement, it's copyright infringement. So all Pal World has to do is just maybe change a few things in the game and call it a day. And then what's Nintendo going to do? So honestly, I've been right in saying so far that Pal World isn't going anywhere. And when we actually get a full release of this, it's going to be pretty huge. And Pal World 2 also has a deal with Xbox, has a deal with Krafton, the publisher, and also has a deal with Sony. So they got these other three big companies that can really support Pocket Pair. And yeah, I think Nintendo has a lot of work cut out for them. And I think they're going to do what they can to kind of save face maybe. But we got actual Pokemon competition now, which I think is great. Again, I think competition's good. And this is going to make Nintendo actually try to make better Pokemon games and innovate some instead of just selling us the same thing all the time. Let's talk about Guerrilla Games. So they currently make the Horizon games like Horizon Zero Dawn. In an interview with the art director, they worked on expressing that back in the day they used to make Killzone. Really enjoyed Killzone. I wish they would bring it back. But Killzone was getting a little old for them. They had made the fourth iteration of the series, and the studio was just ready to do something else, something more focused on focused on something else other than mass genocide and murder and all that stuff. And so they wanted to do a 180, and so that's actually how we got Horizon, which is great. The issue is that now we're just getting Horizon all the time. We've almost had a decade of Horizon from that studio, and there's more Horizon on the way. We get Lego Horizon Adventures. We're going to get the remaster, which Sony is screwing around with to make sure that we pay $50 for it regardless. And then I guess there's actually a future project in the works right now. And a lot of us aren't that excited about what's coming with Horizon. And we might actually have too much of that now. And personally, I'd love to have Killzone. What a lot of these studios get in trouble with and forced by the publishers most of the time, or the heads of the game studios like Holst at Sony right now. Maybe there's just some push from the top. It's like, look, this is selling. We're gonna keep doing this. It's just like Assassin's Creed with Ubisoft. We're supposed to be getting like 3 games next year of Assassin's Creed. It's like one every 4 months. That's too often. Like, you're out of your mind. And other studios are like, yeah, we're just going to keep pushing with Valorant. We're going to keep pushing with Fortnite. We're going to keep pushing with Apex Legends. Keep pushing with COD. It's like, I mean, we got 9 studios now that are freaking that are working on making a Call of Duty game in 12 months. You know, basically, with most of them being support studios and stuff. And it's just like, it's just insane. It's just insane. It's so incredibly frustrating. And yeah, it's just getting to be too much. Like, it's good to have variety so that you can actually put out different styles of games and alternate back and forth, or kind of get them through a rotation so that you don't burn out your players. Because again, if it feels the same, if it feels boring, which I think this is why a lot of people, generally me too, have quit COD. You know, if I have friends to play it with, I'll play it with, and it's on Game Pass, so it's not like I'm spending any extra money. There's a lot of other games that I'm waiting for. But like, it's so incredibly frustrating to just keep having the same stuff all the time. So we're not going to get Killzone anytime soon, unfortunately. I think you can still play some of them on PlayStation Premium if you pay for that package, and it's great. You can play some of the older games. But again, I don't think we should also pay for a remaster list either. I think they should just make them available. Okay, unless they're going to remake them or something, that's great. But again, you can't remake them like Until Dawn. That just, yeah, what they did, it totally changed the atmosphere of the game, and it's worse. It's definitely a lot worse. It sucks. But yeah, honestly, like, again, as I mentioned, all we have is just Call of Duty. I'd love to see a Killzone try to compete. X-Defiant is trying, but again, it's just not hitting it off. But it made me think too of some of the other IPs that I used to have, that I used to be able to play, that I really don't anymore, and that was Band of Brothers, Spec Ops, Rainbow Six, which is just Siege now. Great. Medal of Honor, and then Killzone. And we used to have Gears of War as well. And Halo flopped. So, man, I mean, yeah, I totally understand with everybody that's just, gaming is not what it used to be. It would be nice if it came back, but we shouldn't disengage completely. But again, a lot of people are, you know. I think we can already see that in the Steam numbers with Black Ops 6. It's just people don't feel like they have influence. And so, I'm out. And boy, these companies better be careful, because I think Ubisoft is a great example of what can happen. Because, yeah, Ubisoft is losing a lot of money. I don't think they're going to disappear, but things are going to have to change if they want to continue to exist as an actual business. All right, let's go ahead and get on. We found out from the Prince of Persia Lost Crown, released earlier this year in January, that it didn't sell well, and now the team is actually disbanded. Now, this is not layoffs, as far as I could read and figure out through research. This is just breaking up the team that made Lost Crown and spreading them out to other projects. Okay, they're just working on other stuff. They did release a few DLCs and cosmetics, but again, this hasn't brought people back. They did have a demo for the game, which I actually played. I think it's on my initial look or reviews list, playlist on YouTube, but like, it was fine. But again, it's not the Prince of Persia that I wanted. What I really wanted was, we'd already heard about a remake. We'd already seen a trailer, which again really did not look good. But like, that was in the works, right? And then it's like, hey, new Prince of Persia game. Yay! What is it? Lost Crown. Okay, well, what's that? And then we just see 2D stuff, and it's like, that is not what we freaking want. Okay, it just screams small game, indie game, and again, that's not a bad thing. But the issue comes from when you've made AAA games for an IP like Prince of Persia back in the day, and you're finally going to release another Prince of Persia game, and then it's that. It's like being catfished, okay? It just sucks. It's like, yeah, no, that's not what I want. That is totally not what I was expecting. That's not what I'm wanting. And then they had a demo on top of it. And so people could basically play the game, learn the mechanics, figure out how it is, and it's like, I'm good. I'm good. Like if it was on Game Pass or some other service like that, um, even with heavily discounts, they really didn't sell a lot of copies, which is crazy. And I think if it had have actually launched on Game Pass, they at least would have gotten money initially from Microsoft out of the gate for, I don't know, several $1 million. And they'd maybe actually make more than they did. Because again, this game was launched at $50. The deluxe edition was $60. And again, the problem with that too is value proposition. It's $50 is just too much for that game of what people are willing to pay. And as a seller, you have to understand what people are willing to pay for your product or service, not what you want to sell it for. And your buyers are going to let you know what that is. And so they did. And yeah, now the team's disbanded. They're going to work on other stuff. They even did pitch Lost Crown 2. And while there is passion into that game, again, it's just not what the general audience wanted. Okay? I wanted a remake. I wanted a remaster. I wanted a next iteration, maybe even a collection of remasters or something. But I didn't want Lost Crown. Like, it's my least favorite personally. I did not want that. And then their inspiration was Prince of Persia Classic. Out of all of them other freaking games, they did that one. Yeah. Talk about frustrating. We do have another Prince of Persia coming from Ubisoft in 2026. In my opinion, this will likely be delayed. Many of their other games have been. So yeah, they better make some really good, high-quality games. Otherwise, none of their stuff is going to sell. And Ubisoft is now just kind of a bad name anyway. And so it kind of sucks if you're a developer there, because it doesn't really matter what you're making. It's like, yeah, I work for Ubisoft. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. And this is going to be rough. Ubisoft really has to show high quality, top of the line, beat their competitors, don't play it safe, go all out. Otherwise, how can they continue to exist as a company for the rest of the decade? I don't know. Completely go mobile, maybe? I have no idea. Good luck to them. I hope they figure it out. But yeah, it'll be a mess. So we did get to see, I did want to talk about this too, the Series X White Digital Edition. We got to see actually the Evans channel break down a white Series X. And we got some cost savings. Not a lot, just $50, but we got a cheaper heatsink. So it's not vapor lock anymore. It's actually copper pipes. We also got to see some missing housing around the heatsink and the SSD card. There's also no disk drive. And so MSRP is $450. And it's like, I feel like they could have actually maybe dropped it to $400 or $425. Because, $50 in savings really doesn't feel like it's that much. It's like, okay, you removed some of the housing, you changed the heatsink, you went to a smaller CPU, which is 6 nanometer instead of 7 nanometer. Like, you changed some stuff to make it cheaper to manufacture, and you did pass on some of those savings a little bit, but I don't feel like it's enough. Like, if it was $400, if they had the Series S, which is, drop that to $300, make the digital Series X, make that $400, and then the disc version, make it $500. I think that would actually work out pretty well. And then the 2 terabyte version, make that $600 with the disc drive. I think that would be a pretty good range right there. Because then people could basically buy what they want or what they're willing to pay for. And there's an option from $300 all the way up to $600 on what they're willing to pay. Or you can just save your money for another 3 or 4 years and just buy the next gen consoles that are coming out, one or the other, whichever floats your boat. But again, it's like $450. I don't feel like that's quite cheap enough. I do see it flying off the shelf. So I think a lot of parents are maybe doing shopping right now for Christmas and getting a console while they can. But $450 is still pretty expensive. Most games, I think it's over 90%, are actually sold digitally across all platforms, all games, all genres. Most games are not bought digitally anymore, but for some of us oldie fogies, we really like having our disk drive so that we can actually play some of the older stuff. That's why backwards compatibility too is also very important to us, so we can continue to play those games. But physical 2 also has an issue. It's just like if they pull the license, if they shut the servers off, if that makes your physical copy inept. And unfortunately, that really sucks, because even just having the physical copy doesn't make it safe anymore. It doesn't guarantee you can still play your game. The Crew 1 is a wonderful example of this. And while Ubisoft did change their policies on making an offline mode for the future Crew games, and maybe even some others in the future, it still just leaves a bad taste in our mouths when there's a game that we actually paid for, believing a product that we could play at any time, and but no, it's more or less just a service. Even finding out too, just buying it digitally, you don't actually own anything. And again, that hasn't been new news, but with the news coming out about Steam now letting you know that you're buying a license to have access to the video game, you don't actually own the files, I think that's kind of waking people up. And again, it doesn't matter if it's on Xbox, PlayStation, or on Steam or whatever. GOG, though, if you're a PC, GOG actually gives you a offline launcher, which is nice, so you can actually own those. So maybe some of you actually want to start buying over there. But yeah, still, it's tough. And like a lot of people too also don't like Game Pass, because again, it's just the focus is access. Like, you have access to these games, and if you don't really play a lot, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to spend a bunch of money to just have access to a bunch of these games. But yeah, like, digital will always be available, unfortunately. And I hope they continue to make disc, and I appreciate companies like From Software, like Larian Studios, or even Stalker, the makers of Stalker 2, they're willing to make physical games and actually put the files on the disc, which is great. Those companies I really want to support, because I appreciate their business model and thinking of the player. But then there's others, okay, like COD, where it's like, it's not really worth buying a physical copy. Not at all, because they're just going to have a new COD next year anyway and try to push everybody that general direction. So I think for games like COD, it's great to actually just have Game Pass, because you can get it for a few months or a month, play it, try it out for cheap. And if you don't want to stick with it, cool. If not, just play the previous year. People still do. Absolutely. So I think that's all I got for you this year. Just to let you guys know, too, I will be taking a look at Black Friday deals, and I will be posting that into November, which is pretty soon. But yeah, as soon as they start coming out, I'll start doing my research, and we'll figure out the best place to get a PlayStation 5 controller, and which game console, and what the prices are at different places. And I'll check places like Target, Fred Meyer, Walmart, Best Buy, and Amazon. I'll check like those types of places. So hopefully you guys are doing well. If you like the content, like, sub, all that jazz. Don't forget, we also have Discord, Twitter X, and also Twitch. Twitch, you can watch it there first. And with that, folks, we'll see you guys on the next one.